This is Boxes and Briefs, a podcast with real-life business stories. But we will be asking the hard questions and challenging traditions. So broaden your thinking with fresh perspectives and solve problems for business success. And welcome to another episode of Boxes and Briefs. My name is Lisa.
I'm Kelly.
And today we have with us Monique Bradley. Welcome, Monique.
Hi, everybody.
So Monique is a storyteller, which I love, whose career has spanned acting, voice work, children's entertainment. She has a background in theatre and film, and she's currently pursuing a master's in creative practice. She brings her unique blend of creativity and authenticity to everything from TV to corporate events. That's a lot.
It is a lot. But it gives you an indication of how my brain works, which is a lot all the time. It just doesn't stop. So,
all the things, all the time.
All the things.
I love it. Tell us the Monique Bradley story. How did you end up to where you are here now?
Thank you for that question. When I train beauty pageant contestants, I always tell them to compose themselves by answering with that statement. So thank you for that question. For me, it started when I was quite young. So in one of the bios that I wrote for one platform, it opened with I was born with a million words inside my body.
Is that all?
Well, every day they regenerate. They regenerate all the time.
Got it.
And so I was born into this household of words, and my father was a speaker and a healer, actually, and he was a naturopath and a homeopath. And he was an astrologer and a painter and paper hanger and a musician. So being like multi-complex as a human is normal. My mum's a teacher. She's still teaching down in Wellington. And so I was born into this eclectic bohemian household of performing arts. My parents met in theatre. I was the baby of 7 as well. So my father had a first family with 6 children. A lot of them, like my brother Butch, he ended up being one of the first TV presenters on TV3, so anything to do with media, radio, was kind of in my blood. It's in my DNA. And so, like most kids, I struggled with bullying, and so my parents...
What could they have had to bully you about? Being creative?
No, I was a morbidly obese child in a morbidly obese family. Yeah, I was so big, and I talk about this in one of my keynote speeches. I was so big. So when I was 18 months old, I was talking in sentences. Amazing comprehension, but I couldn't walk. And so the doctors actually thought that there was some developmental delay, that I could have a tumour on my brain or my thyroid, which is why I was so big. And they scanned my brain. They even thought, they even used the word retarded to my parents. They thought I was something wrong. And they scanned my brain, and they then looked at my parents. So my dad was 6'3" and 23 stone. He was a big man, and my mum's 5 foot tall, and she's a beautiful curvy mama, and so squishy. And so that when I was scanned, and nothing was wrong with my brain, and the doctors actually looked at my parents and they said, "No, we can see what's wrong with your daughter. Elephants don't make mice." And so all of that story became my story, and so I was this fat kid. I was the fat kid at school. And so I got bullied for that. And it was really hard on my confidence. So while you can see me here and I'm full of life and full of confidence, this has been a lifelong journey to get here. And performing arts was part of that.
A kid with those same circumstances today would have had to deal with the same thing?
Absolutely.
It
100%.
still happens?
Absolutely, 100%.
Something's wrong with your brain?
Potentially.
No, it's not. It's your parents.
Potentially. Well, that's a subconscious bias that is still happening out there. If you think about it, people are still being isolated and judged by how we show up.
Yeah.
So I had that going on, judged as a kid by other kids, by other adults as well.
Yeah.
So always had this concept that I would only ever be the fat kid. But because my parents had experienced performing arts, they knew what was possible when you stand on a stage. And because I couldn't shut up, they decided to focus that and put me into speech and drama when I was 8. I started doing competitions by the time I was 10, and I started training as an opera singer when I was 11.
Opera singing? Yeah. That wasn't in the bio.
Yeah, there you go, surprise! So I did all that, and what I found was that I found my place. I found that when your voice becomes louder, the bullies can't touch you. Or that it doesn't matter because you find your confidence in your voice.
Yep. Because it's where you get the confidence from, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Knowing who you are, knowing your value.
Yep. Not from other people.
No, that's right. And so when I was in very much that judged place, it's because other people's opinions of me were louder than my own voice. So my whole journey has really been about voice and stories. And now in my professional career, a lot of the work I do is either speaking on behalf of brands that can't talk for themselves, or coaching people to find their voice. So in that professional space. So nothing in my life has really changed. It's just gone from being me. I spent my life learning the tools, and now I get to share them to help others.
Love that.
How wonderful.
So good.
That's quite cool. Actually going through the process of getting ready for today, and actually having that time to reflect back, and I'm like, yep, still doing the same thing 6-year-old me was doing back in the day, just on a bigger stage now.
Love that. Okay, so you kind of talked about the bullying being a form of rejection, but in your career as well, to get to where you are now, you would have faced other kind of professional rejection.
All the time.
Tell us about that.
All the time. I don't know how many auditions I've been to, and I'll walk out going, yes, I nailed it. And then radio silence. Or there's been other times, like I did an audition, which was the worst. I was in between doing a morning and afternoon magic show, and I went to do this audition for Rebel Sport. And the premise was that I had to run on a treadmill. Now, first of all, I don't run on treadmills. I'm not that kind of girl. I'm good at sitting down. I'm great at drinking wine. And I need to exercise more, just disclaimer. But I remember doing this. I had to run on this treadmill. And the understanding was that I was running on the treadmill behind Sonny Bill Williams, who was going to be on the treadmill in front of me. And I was supposed to be a cougar looking at his derriere.
Oh, no.
And the more excited I got, the faster the treadmill went and blah, blah, blah. And it was a very comedic kind of thing. And as I was running during my audition, my pants started falling down. So I had to hold on to my pants. And I came out going, that is the worst audition I have ever done. This is just terrible. I will never get another audition again. I got the role. And I ended up doing the commercial with Sonny Bill. So sometimes these things, these self-judgments get in the way of seeing the gold or the learning in a situation. So while I've had numerous setbacks throughout my career, like you wouldn't believe, my way of dealing with it is to look back and go, cool, what was the learning from that? And how will I grow?
Yeah, so growth mindset versus fixed mindset.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Instead of going, oh crap, that happened, I feel horrible, the world hates me, I'm never going to try this again.
Absolutely. And I've had major opportunities disappear.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel sorry for yourself. But if you can, instead of letting that rock sit on top of you all the time, if you can come out and get to the point where you sit on top of that rock and go, what do I take away from this? How can I be better?
Yeah.
Whether it's internally better or better in the work that you do or a better performer.
Yeah.
What is my lesson?
Yeah, and I think the quicker you get there, well, the more often you do it, the quicker you
Absolutely.
flip it.
Well, that's resilience, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the core of that. So it's been great. So challenging, but there's always a lesson.
Now, you were telling me about a movie that you're in, Morning Flow.
Yeah.
How on
It
earth,
sounds weird,
like,
right?
You're doing all of these things. How are you managing to pursue and do well in all of them?
I don't know. Blind ignorance.
That's not helpful.
No, sorry. No, let me quantify. I was taught in theatre by an incredible director. He worked in the box office actually in the theatre on Queen Street here.
Okay.
When he was like in the 1940s, I think it was. So there was this one time where they opened the box office and they were selling tickets for the Bolshoi Ballet. And he was about 17 and he was standing in the box office and he looked out and the queue extended right down the length of Queen Street.
Wow.
Like it was a big deal. And he started to panic and get anxious and his boss came in. So at the time he was studying with the Royal New Zealand Ballet and this was his part-time job.
Right.
And he said his boss came in and put his hands on his shoulders and he could feel the anxiety and he said, just remember the queue is only ever one person long. So I apply this to my life, that wherever I'm focused right now, this is the most important moment. And if you're in front of me, you are the most important person right now in this moment. So for me, being able to juggle lots of projects is very much about compartmentalizing my energy, my focus and my attention onto what's happening right now and what I can do in this moment to either help or make a change.
Love that.
And so when it comes to balancing a portfolio career, because that's effectively what it is.
Yeah.
I was told when after I finished my degree in theatre and film at Vic, I went on to study film and television production at TVNZ, and I did a diploma in production as well as on-camera stuff. And they brought in a career consultant who said, with the type of work that you will do, you will only ever likely have a portfolio career. And I went, what's that? And she said, it's a portfolio full of different projects. And I went, that sounds like me. Wow, because my brain works that way.
Yeah.
And so it's a style of working that suits how my brain works.
I would love this to be available to students who are trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up.
Oh, yay.
Because there are so many people who are like, you've got the pressure of having to choose subjects, and then when you leave university, what are you going to do? What are you going to be? And you're still developing. I wish that was an option when I was back then.
I think everyone wishes an option. The amount of people I know who we're still struggling to figure out what we actually want to do with our lives.
That's
portfolio career.
So so from then on, and I went, okay, I don't necessarily, with my energy and the way that I operate, I understand working in a full-time job, and there are reductions of risk, especially when it comes to your monetary, your income.
Yes.
However, there needs to be a real balance between what is your natural style and energetic style of being able to work and your output, as opposed to those risks.
Yeah.
So for me, I love a new project coming along. I'm like, great, it inspires me. I get that dopamine hit, and I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I know that I struggle to finish something, so I need to be able to play to my strengths.
See, I've always seen that as the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner.
A lot of entrepreneurs have that
The start,
mindset.
the spark, the interesting
Absolutely.
new project.
Yes.
They want to get into it.
Yes. But then a lot of business owners get into business because they've got that entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes.
And they never think they have to be their own marketing machine, as an example.
Yes.
They never think, they forget about the fact they need to be their own HR department and all these other hats that business owners wear.
Yeah.
So,
Portfolios.
that's right. Having a portfolio career
Yeah.
works well for somebody like me in the creative sector.
Yeah.
And what it means is that it also makes me a hunter, because I can't sit here and go, I know money's just going to turn up and I'll keep doing this work.
Yeah.
I need to keep going out and looking.
Yes.
And again, that's where I get my dopamine hit from.
Yeah.
Not from so much, I need to land this amount of money over this amount of time. I've never been driven by money. I've been driven by who can I help next? With what I've got and the skills and expertise that I have, how can I help someone?
Yeah.
That's actually the biggest buzz for me.
Yeah. When you see the light bulb go on for somebody else. Yep. Soul filling.
Oh, it's great.
Okay, so what's one unconventional tip that you've learned from your background in theatre that applies to business?
I loved this question when you sent that through. Because I thought, the first thing I thought of was this quote that Shakespeare shared, which is all the world is a stage, or your life is a stage. And the work that I do, especially as a coach, what I'm really teaching people is really understanding how we show up. And it's the same thing as an actor. When you walk out onto stage, you represent a character and an energy and a story that your audience has to be able to connect with. And it's exactly the same thing in business. And I'm not saying you have to play a character.
Yeah, because that's the struggle between
Yeah.
being authentic, your authentic self, and playing a character.
And as you know, authenticity is big for me.
Yeah.
It's a massive part of the work that I do. Brené Brown says that authenticity is a daily practice. So my practice is every day I get up and go, who am I today? Who am I in my most authentic, embodied self? And how do I want to show up? And how do I want to impact the world?
Wow.
And that is literally every single morning I ask myself that question.
So it's a reminder to be you.
100%.
Yeah.
Because everyone else is taken.
What is Morning Flow about?
It's my father's adoption story.
Really? So it's a true story.
It's a true story.
And it's your story.
It's my story. It's my family's story.
Wow.
In the film, I play my grandmother.
Oh.
My grandnephews, Joseph and Eli, play my father as a child. And it's the real story of how my father met his mother. It's a big story, and it's all shot in Blenheim.
Okay, beautiful.
And it is shot, my nephew Keelan he wrote the script, and he's a film producer and documentary maker. So him and I discussed the story on the way to bury one of my brothers in 2022. So him and I ended up driving in the same car together to go and to lay Brother Michael down to rest. And we were talking about how stories are a common thread that bring people together.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, do you know your grandfather's adoption story? And he went, what? And so I said, oh, do you remember meeting your Nana Flo, or Nana Florence? And he went, yeah, I do. I said, well, there's a story. And I told him the whole story. And he went, geez, that'd make a good film. And about a year later, I said, oh, if you do it, Neff, I'd like to be the narrator or something like that. And about a year later, he gave me a call. I was in a B&I meeting and I saw I'd missed a call from him, actually. I ran outside going, what's going on with the family? Is everything okay? He goes, I've done it. And I said, done what? He goes, I've written the script. I went, what script? I'd forgotten about it. He said, I've written Morning Flo and I want you to play Nana Flo.
Oh.
So 3 generations of family worked on this film.
Wow.
And it's now in post-production. And it's a real story. And it's that reminder that stories and connections matter.
They do.
That's incredible.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.
All right, Monique, I have to say congratulations.
Thank
You
you.
have just won the Professional Speakers Association of New Zealand MC of the Year award.
It was a big deal. I ugly cried.
Of course, of course. I wouldn't have expected anything less.
I did.
Pick a moment from your MC career that was difficult and how you overcame it.
There are so many. There's so many. And I say it, but then my job is to be the person who holds it all together. So when you're an MC, you hold state for an entire event.
Yes, it's a lot of energy.
It's
You
a
have to
huge
have the
amount of
stamina.
And it's different from, so the other work that I do as a keynote speaker. So a keynote speech is like a sprint.
Yep.
And MC work is a marathon.
Yes.
Okay.
And they require very different skills.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, holding everything together when things are falling apart is, I guess, one of my superpowers. But one of the real challenges, well, there's several, and I want to pass this on to anybody considering becoming an MC.
Okay.
Often, if it's really important to ask for all the briefing details, and so sometimes people expect you to just turn up with no information
And just wing it.
and absolutely wing it. And I can do that because I've developed that skill.
Yes.
However, it causes me a huge amount of stress, and I would hope that it's not obvious from my performance, but I don't want to add any extra stress to what I'm doing because I'm constantly looking around the room, looking for risk or looking for where things are falling down or how is the audience responding. There's a lot of situational intelligence required in being an MC.
Yeah.
But one of the funniest, I shouldn't say it's funny, but one of the interesting things that happened
Yes.
was I was speaking at an event and there was somebody who was one of the speakers who came up on stage, and I'm not sure what was going on. If the person may have been a little tipsy or
Could have been anything when you use those words.
and to be honest,
Okay.
didn't look terribly well and started mumbling, and I thought, oh gosh, something's not quite right here.
Yeah.
And so I got a message from the event coordinator who said, this is not going quite so well, can you cover? So I ran up on stage, I said, thank you so much for your message. And she went, I'm not finished yet. And I said, I'm just really aware we're just running out of time, but what you've said is so valuable. So thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, give this person a round of applause. And everybody did.
Well handled.
Thank you. Well, that's what you do, right? And so then I stepped in, took over, and started talking about the next speaker.
Yes.
And in the meantime, the person walked across the stage, fell down the stairs,
Oh, no.
and knocked over a big glass vase full of flowers.
Oh no.
And it was awkward and not
Embarrassing
ideal.
for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for the organisation.
Yeah.
I'm just, as I'm sitting here talking about it, I'm thinking, man, should I be actually talking about this? I'm not even sure. Oh, goodness. But what I want to say is that the most important thing about any given situation, especially if you're an MC or you're running an event,
Yeah.
is that in any given moment, something can go wrong and possibly will.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to pull it together. It's up to you to hold state as if it's okay, everything's under control. Because an audience feeds off the energy you bring to the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're unsettled, they'll become unsettled.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you support that person who might be having a challenge, and also support your audience to restore calm and peace,
Yep.
and refocus them onto what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that old saying, the show must go on.
100%. And I cannot, like, that one happened, like, I've had several instances of things like that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one happened, the one I'm talking about today happened about 6 months ago, from the time that we're filming now. But I've had all sorts of things, speakers falling down.
No shows?
No, I've never had a no-show, which is great.
Oh, touch wood, quick.
Yeah, until now, touch wood. But yeah, definitely that moment of, wow, the MC's here, great, now you hold everything together, great. You've given me no run schedule, you've given me no details, what would you like me to talk about? Because I can actually talk about anything.
Yeah.
So
But you're there.
I'm there, and so it's the information is important,
Yeah.
and understanding that as the ringmaster, which is what
Yeah.
you effectively are, you are actually across everything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that you've
You
got
have
the
to
right
be the
messaging.
nosy person. You have to know all of the people in the audience, on the stage, and behind the scenes.
And communication is key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's the most valuable skill that you've developed, other than being able to be the glue that holds everything together and emceeing? Like, something you've touched on is the storytelling aspect, right? And helping people tell their stories and be authentic. So what is it from storytelling that you think every entrepreneur should try and cultivate?
Authenticity. Letting go of who you think you should be, and showing up actually authentically as yourself, having unwavering faith in your ability and your skills to deliver and help.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is that in the brain, I talk about this in trainings and stuff, there's the amygdala, which most people know about.
Yeah.
In my
I only
work-
know about that because of the Adam Sandler movie.
Oh, there you
I'll
go.
be honest.
Oh, really? There you go.
Yep. Waterboy.
There you go. So I learnt about it. The way that I learnt about it is where it sits in the brain, and it sits between our words and our emotions. So in acting, we talk about text and subtext. And subtext is the tone or the intention that people feel from the words and the delivery, as opposed to the text. So when somebody is talking and you've got that radar in you going off, going, oh, for some reason or other, I don't trust this person. It's because the text and the subtext don't align, and your amygdala is going, wah, 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 going, it's not congruent.
Yep.
So finding who you are authentically without putting those preconceived ideas on yourself of how you should show up, and letting go of all that crap and being authentically yourself, that space is where you are seen as the most trusted. And when you can find that, and it is a daily practice, and it does take work, when you find that, you are literally unstoppable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it open up when you ask people, why do you do what you do? Which is usually how we start every podcast episode. But it's if their answer is to help people or to make money, or it's those simple short sentence ones, you have to dive deeper, because there's still a reason that they, even if it is to make money, but why this to make money?
That's right.
There's always a why
That's
behind
right.
it. And when they figure that out, they can do all kinds of things.
I agree. And also, if what you do is connected to a much deeper level of purpose,
Yes.
then even in the face of no, and I've worked for a long time in sales, and I'm just going to announce I've just finished my first actual full grown-up book on sales, by the way, which I'm really excited to share. Yeah, spoiler alert, you guys are the first to hear. I don't know how many no's or not fails, but rejections I've had in my life.
Yeah.
And you just keep going, and I keep, because my purpose of either being a storyteller or helping people share their stories in the most authentic, real way possible, drives me so much that it's an obsession. I think about it nonstop.
Yeah.
And I keep saying to myself, cool, I just have to keep going. It just keeps me going. And that purpose of, especially if I link it back to me as a child who was told, you're never going to be anything, you're just a fat kid, you don't deserve to be up there on the stage, like all those things, and yet that's the place where I feel happy and have value. Why wouldn't I keep doing that? And now I can help others find that same glorious moment in themselves.
Yeah.
Like, wow, what a gift.
I know.
And so, authenticity, that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah, well, you've done a seminar on imposter syndrome. So we're going from authenticity to, there's those sayings, fake it till you make it. And there's an element of truth in it. But at some point, it's not true. How are you dealing with imposter syndrome? How do business owners value themselves? How do they stick their hourly rate on them? How do they...
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So there is the concept of fake it till you make it is very much a theatrical mechanism, I guess. Well, I think that's where it was sort of more deeply rooted in performance.
Okay.
What it does on a subconscious level is the more that you repeat something, it creates a new neural pathway in the brain, and that becomes the path of least resistance. So it becomes your normal. So it becomes flow, or it becomes
Right. So if you
effortless.
don't like speaking, start,
then
and
when
it
you
will
do
get
it,
easier.
It's like
Right.
learning to cook. It's an incremental skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so faking it till you make it is literally keep repeating it until you get good. But it's kind of put in that way so that it makes it a bit of a show pony, if you know what I mean. It's it sounds a bit more glamorous than just keep rehearsing and then do it. But it's that simple.
Yep.
And I think through understanding that and embracing that self-belief piece, that's actually the key to overcoming imposter syndrome. One of the keys, anyway. There's other keys like whakapapa is massive, and people normally only consider whakapapa as our genealogy. When, as part of my master's research, I'm looking at Te Ao Māori principles and how they enable me or inform my practice as a speaker to have connection with people. So I'm looking at the magic that happens when I establish what's called co-presence between myself and an audience, where I feel like I'm a part of everything and everything is a part of me. When you get to that realm as a speaker, there's this magic that you feel, and it's just beautiful. I love it. You know those moments where you could hear a pin drop?
Yeah.
That's what I'm always looking for, because then I know that an audience is with me. They're not listening to me, they're with me. And so whakapapa has been part of this research journey, and I went to my marae in Blenheim, and I had one of my uncles take me around to our urupa where all our ancestors are buried, and he told me about the land, he told me the real story of our origin. And I said, explain whakapapa to me. What is it in the way that our people understand it? And he said, when you stand up and recite your whakapapa, you are saying, this is who I am, this is who I was, and this is who comes with me. And it's a way of you looking at the audience and acknowledging, I see who you are, I see who you were, and I see who comes with you. And when you step into that feeling, there's a sense of calm and groundedness, because you know that you're actually not out there speaking by yourself.
They're with you.
100%. And so suddenly you're not alone.
Yeah.
And you're not quite so vulnerable. And you're there for a purpose, because you're representing all of the generations behind you that you are going to be the next best iteration or representative of us and our knowledge.
How does that not be something that makes you feel pressure?
Because they're there to support you.
So it's the way that you look at your
100%.
whakapapa as well.
Absolutely. Imposter syndrome is the way that you look at yourself. It's about acknowledging your lineage, but in the workplace, it's about acknowledging your professional whakapapa as well. So if I was just up here talking about I'm a speaker and I like to do this, actually what informs me to be able to do this is 25 years of being an entrepreneur, of having a degree, of being in 2 international feature films, Avatar and The Water Horse, of being in 2 New Zealand features, Eagle versus Shark and Secondhand Wedding, of having multiple commercials on TV, of having voiced 11 characters for the Xbox game Far Cry 3. All of those things are part of my whakapapa.
Wow, so you
And that
just turned
gives
your
me-
work history into your strengths.
Absolutely. So that's part of what informs me to have belief in who I am, what I do, and how I can serve.
So that's real confidence.
100%. And when you stop focusing on oh my God, am I going to be okay? Oh my God. When you flip it around and go, how can I serve? I
Yeah.
can serve with these skills that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to liken it to that. When I joined B&I, this was 18 months ago, and I walked in going, whoa, I'm a speaker and an MC. These people have real jobs. So this is quite new for me.
Oh, wow.
These people have real jobs. Nick from your QS, he's a quantity surveyor. That's a real job. Or Abdullah with Verum, and oh, wow, he builds websites and does all this cool stuff. I've worked in digital as well, but he's next level. That's a real job in a real business. And then I've had to do that inner work. And go, actually, you know what? I coach business leaders, I coach presidents, I coach CEOs to help them find their voice. That is an important skill, and it's not just something to get out and speak. This is a life skill.
And the only way you're going to get to be in the place where you're able to drop that many impressive sentences in a row is because you haven't done the fake it till you make it in this part of your career.
Not at all.
You've done the I have done it.
I did it, so I can say I've done it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So there is a difference between the start and where you are now.
100%.
The
And
start.
look, I'm an old lady now, to be fair, so I've got a few years of work history behind me.
It's so good. It's so good, Monique. So looking back on the journey and walking into, for those who don't know, B&I is Business Networking International. It's a business networking group. But when you look back at your younger self who was just starting out, realising portfolio of career, realising authenticity, realising the confidence in what you've done and who you are, what's your advice now?
Keep going.
Why?
Because I was always right.
Explain.
My first memory of being a speaker and being a presenter, because I worked in TV shopping as well, I've done loads of different things, heaps of different things, was when I was 6-year-old me standing in the kitchen making cheese scones and looking in the window in front of me, and it was at night, and I could see my reflection, and in that window, that was my TV screen, and I stood there and I went, hello, I'm Alison Holst. And you're too young to understand who that is. You probably remember
I know,
her.
yes.
And she's amazing. I ended up working with her when
That'd
I
be like
emceed.
saying Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, there you go. But she's like the Gordon Ramsay of New Zealand, yeah. And she was amazing, and I love her. And I ended up working with her actually at the food show when I emceed that. She was just amazing. But I knew then exactly who I was. The brain changes around the age of 6 or 7. When we are that young, we really actually implicitly know who we are. But it's all these other things. We allow other people's voices to get in the way and shape who, based on their opinions, who we should be. Now in this time of my life, me and 6-year-old me are the same person. I've just had a few more runs on the board.
Instead of a straight line, there's a bit of a squiggle in the middle.
Oh, a whole lot of squiggles. But that has filled my portfolio full of stories and expertise and such valuable learnings that now I have the resilience to deal with challenging times. And it happens. Right now in businesses, people are struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the common thread amongst it all is I've got myself. And I know that my value is in the stories that I share and the lessons I can share with others to help them become more resilient or more confident and more authentic.
I love that.
And that's basically it. So my message to me is I knew who I was and I know who I am, so keep going.
Keep going.
And I may
We'll
not
figure
have
it out.
may not have all the answers. It's like going to a destination. I know exactly where I want to go. I may not know all of the steps, but I can take the next one, which is the right one for me right now.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brilliant stories. If our listeners want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
A great question. They can get in touch with me through LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest way.
Okay.
Just look for Monique Bradley. I've got a yellow top on and very curly hair in the photo. Or you can head to my website, moniquebradley.tv.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monique.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.